Call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody here. Let me assure all of you that this isn't everybody. They're all at the SU AGM still. There's still lots of people there. But it's good to have such a good crowd out today. And before we get started, though, I'm going to ask Councillor Funk to bring the opening, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In a week and a half, we're going to celebrate the largest event in the Christian history, and that's Easter. It's the event that our faith hangs on. Our traditions, our faith, our belief system hangs on the crucifixion and the resurrection of our Christ and Lord Savior. So I'll just start reading. I'm reading out of Luke chapter 23, and I'm starting in verse 26. As they led Jesus away, a man named Simon, who was from Cyrene, happened to be coming in from the countryside. The soldiers seized him and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large crowd trailed behind, including many of the grief-stricken women. Two others, both criminals, were led to be executed with him. When they came to a place called the Skull, they nailed him to the cross, and the criminals were also crucified, one on his right, one on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." And the soldiers gambled for his clothing by throwing dice. The crowd watched as the leaders scoffed. "He saved others," they said. "Let him save himself, if he's really God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers mocked him too by offering him a drink of sour wine. They called out to him, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." A sign was fastened above him with these words, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, "So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself, and us too while you're at it." But the other criminal protested, "Don't you fear God, even when you have been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "I assure you today you will be with me in paradise." By this time it was about noon, and darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. The light from the sun was gone, and suddenly the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in the middle. Then Jesus shouted, "Father, I entrust my spirit into your hands." And with those words he breathed his last. When the Roman officer overseeing the execution saw what had happened, he worshipped God and said, "Surely this man was innocent." And when the crowd had come to see the crucifixion, had seen what happened, they went home with deep sorrow. But Jesus' friends, including the woman who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance watching. Now there was a good and righteous man named Joseph. He was a member of the Jewish council. He went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. Then he took the body down from the cross, wrapped it in a long sheet of linen cloth, and laid it in a new tomb that had been carved out of rock. This was done late on Friday afternoon, the day of preparation, as the Sabbath was about to begin. Very early on Sunday morning, women went to the tomb, taking spices they had prepared. They found that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance, so they went in. But they didn't find the body of the Lord Jesus. As they stood there puzzled, two men suddenly appeared to them, clothed in dazzling robes. The women were terrified and bowed with their faces to the ground. Then the men asked, "Why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive? He isn't here. He is risen from the dead. Remember what he told you back in Galilee? That the Son of Man must be betrayed into the hands of sinful men, be crucified, and that he would rise again on the third day." That was Luke's account of the crucifixion and the resurrection. On Sunday, we're going to get together with our family, and the grandkids are going to come, and we're going to have Easter egg hunts, and we're going to have fun and lots of ham and smoked turkey. But we will be spending some time reflecting on this, and I just encourage you to reflect on what God has done. This was huge that he came and he was our sacrifice at Easter. And this is like I said before, it's the foundation of Christianity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Funk. We have the agenda in front of us. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Councillor Fair, second by Councillor Siemens. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favour? Carried. We have the minutes from March 1st. This is on page 1. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Swagstra, Councillor Penner. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favour? Carried. We're not quite at 7:35. We'll move to the reports and recommendations from the City Manager. 8A, 2016 Capital Works Projects Tender Award. On page 8, Mr. Warkentine, can you introduce this, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is an item for Council's consideration for the 2016 Capital Works Program for the City of Steinbach. The purpose is to award the contract as was issued as in relation to tenders that were closed on March 3rd, 2016. A total of 5 bids received. The city's project engineer, SBC Inc., is recommending that the low bid tender in the amount of $2.955 million to Maple Leaf Construction Ltd. Be awarded. The funding for this capital works program will be provided by a transfer of funds from the city's gas tax reserve, its capital development reserve, a debt issue, and a Building Canada Fund grant. The approved budget for the 2016 program is just under $3.6 million.
Thank you. Mr. Warkentine, just so to be clear, so this is roughly 10% lower than the estimate that we had?
Approximately.
Thank you. How would Council like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will make the motion that we award the tender.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Penner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a major set of projects and totaling the tender amount just under $3 million. It's quite clear that infrastructure remains a top priority of Council. We want our streets in the city and our underground infrastructure to be of top quality. In order to do that, we have to spend a lot of money. And so this will cover the reconstruction of Barkman Avenue, our pavement management program, which is where we're proactively resurfacing streets on a regular basis, so that way we don't have to spend more money on them later, and also our 2016 sidewalk construction program. So those are significant projects, and they're important for the city. The funding for this comes from a variety of sources, so we are working in partnership. We have gas tax money, which comes from the federal government. We have our capital development reserve, there's a portion in debt, and there's a Building Canada Fund grant. So there's obviously a number of different components of funding, but it's important we move ahead. Infrastructure is a priority, and it remains a priority, and we're going to do this and other capital works programs in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Penner, anything further? No? Anything further from Council? No? Anything in closing? No. Council, obviously, we've made it a priority to make sure our basic infrastructure is in place. Asphalt overlay, underground is all very important, and we'll continue with this, these projects moving forward. Call for the question. All those in favour? Carried. We now have 8B, the Soccer Park Washroom Change Room Building. This is on page 16. Mr. Warkentine.
Mr. Mayor, this is also a capital project that has been planned for 2016. The reason why it is on council agenda is somewhat similar to the tender package that was just recently approved. In this particular case, for the project that is proposed, the City of Steinbach will act as general contractor for the project. There are going to be a number of different components that the city has investigated quotations for, and in their entirety they exceed the budget approval limitation of myself, which is set at $250,000. The total expenditure expected is approximately $300,000 to $70,000 to complete the work, and request and recommendation is that Council proceed to authorize these expenditures as noted.
Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Fair. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a project that's long overdue. That soccer park has been in place for approximately 10 years, and it's well used. And we have many people and children participating in the soccer sport. And the bathrooms over the years have been non-existent except for porta potties and the trees in the park. We've had many different community events and provincial events being hosted there, as well as the Manitoba Summer Games here this summer, so this is critical that this move forward, and so that we have appropriate facilities as we present ourselves to the rest of the province through the Manitoba Summer Games.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Fair, anything further?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'm just I'm looking at all the quotes here, and it looks to me like there's a lot of community involvement here, and a lot of people are really coming to the party, and it's good to see that community spirit coming through in the way that some of these people are supporting this project as well.
Anything further from Council? Councillor Fair.
I just want to add it's an excellent facility already, and this will just only enhance the use and the value to the community.
Anything further? Anything closer? No? Council, we do have a lot of visitors to our community. We want to have facilities that we feel proud of, and this is one of those that we want to feel proud of, and that we have the basic amenities in place. So this is a high time. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We will now move to the delegations. Registered delegations, 7A, that's Steve Reason.
Correct.
Please let us know where you're from, and we'll give you the floor.
Sure. I'm a territory manager with Canadian Blood Services. I'm based in Winnipeg. So, Mayor Goertzen, councillors, municipal staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak before council. As I mentioned, I'm the territory manager of Canadian Blood Services. I'm responsible for the Interlake, Eastern Manitoba, and the Pembina Valley. My role is to work with local communities, companies, service groups, and general public to promote participation in our community blood donor clinics. Every minute, every hour, every day, someone in Canada needs blood or blood products like plasma or platelets. And according to an Ipsos Reid survey, about 52% of Canadians know somebody who needed or will receive blood, but only 4% of eligible Canadians donate blood, and about 50% of us, half of us, are eligible to donate. So I always like to ask when I speak, how many here have received or known somebody who's received blood or blood products? I have. How many of you donated blood in the past? Okay. And how many of you are current blood donors? Okay, that's fantastic. So every year we have donors who can no longer donate because of age, their health, or other restrictions. And nationally, on an annual basis, Canadian Blood Services has a year-over-year donor retention of about 60% of our donor base. That means each year we need to engage more than 100,000 new donors across Canada, or bring previous donors back to active status. And we consider active status as somebody who would donate twice a year. Every week in Manitoba, hospital patients need over 1,000 units of blood. And we can't collect 3,000 one week and 500 another week. We really need about 1,100 units of blood each and every week. Red blood cells are used to help patients with bone marrow deficiencies, plasma for burn victims, and platelets that help patients with clotting disorders. And a little bit of the science: whole blood can be refrigerated for up to 42 days. Plasma can be frozen for about a year. But platelets used for clotting must be kept at room temperature and only last for 5 days. And if you consider that we lose 2 days for testing, we really only have 3 days to distribute the collected platelets to patients in need. This is why we collect blood 6 days a week in our permanent clinic locations in Winnipeg and Brandon, and mobile clinics that we have around Winnipeg, and rural clinics like the one we hold here in Steinbach. There really is no substitute for blood, and again, each donated unit is 100% used. Heart surgery can require a minimum 5 units. A car accident victim might need 50 units. Cancer treatment may need 5 units, and leukemia patients can use up to 10 units of blood per week. When we ask people why they don't donate, most often they say either they've never been asked or they assume that somebody else was donating. And the message I want to deliver in this community and every community that I work with is really, we are the donors and we are the somebody who takes the time to donate. We have a very dedicated and loyal donor base in Steinbach, and your community clinic is the largest one that we operate in Manitoba. Our clinic year from the beginning of beginning of April to the end of March, and this year to date we've collected 1,572 units, and based on our collection goals, your clinic was only 65 units short of our goals, and that's fantastic. We've been coming here once a month, but effective April 18th, we're changing from monthly clinics to bi-weekly clinics. And the goal for the clinic each time will be 96 units, and 1 unit is donated per person. So over the year, we'll be looking for 2,016 individual donations. To meet those goals, we really need about 750 new and active donors to attend and donate twice per year in Steinbach to meet the need. One of the challenges that we face is that we book almost twice as many appointments per clinic as our expected collections, which means for every 100 donors we will attend a clinic, we make 150 to 200 appointments. And that takes into account canceled appointments, people who don't show on the day, donors who are ill or deferred for a variety of reasons. Canadian Blood Services operates all of our blood donor clinics, but in order to engage new donors, raise the profile of local clinics, and the ongoing need for blood, we need to engage local communities to have a stronger role in promoting blood donation and encouraging young people to become donors for life. As part of this initiative, I recently started to name clinics in my territory as the local community blood donor clinic. So last year we changed the name of the clinic to the Steinbach Community Blood Donor Clinic because I really feel that the clinic belongs to everyone in the community, not just Canadian Blood Services. While we have some very strong partners in Steinbach, we're making a push to engage new partners like our strong local support of the St. Anne Co-op. We've joined the local Chamber of Commerce to participate with business functions to meet new folks in the community. And specifically, I'm asking businesses to adopt a clinic and support their clinic with extra advertising, bring donors to donate, and getting the word out to their customers to attend sponsored clinics to greet and thank donors. And this is a very small step, but an important one where we have local organizations stepping forward to say that they support community blood donation and that it's important for them. So, what am I asking from Council today? I'm asking that you directly engage your networks at work, church, and your recreation and sport activities to promote clinic attendance and the importance of donating blood, to promote that it's everyone's responsibility to contribute to our blood supply, and to actively pledge to help grow the Steinbach Community Blood Donor Clinic. Other municipalities have stepped up, and a good example would be the rural municipality of Gimli, which passed a resolution last year to support and join our Partners for Life program, and they had their CEO distribute information to staff, to council members, other community committees, boards, and employees. In addition, we've had the mayors of Morris, Gimli, Portage la Prairie attend clinics to greet and thank donors and in support of Canadian Blood Services and their local clinic. I'd like to end with our slogan, join the movement to give life, because it's more than donating blood. It could be organs, or it could be bone marrow, or anything like that. And to thank each and every one of you for the opportunity to speak today, and to helping Canadian Blood Services to continue to meet the critical healthcare needs of Manitobans. I know that working together as a team, we can help this critical component of our healthcare system continue to grow and meet our collection goals, helping patients and sharing the opportunity to give the gift of life. Thank you.
Thank you. There might be some questions for you.
Sure,
so,
please.
Council, any questions? All right, you're obviously very clear with what you had to say. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and we will take this information and move forward with. Obviously, you do very good work, and we'll take that information and distribute it to our staff to administer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to 7B, and that's the Task Force, the Public Engagement for Recreation and Cultural Facilities, and we have a report. First, but before the report, I would like to ask Mr. Warkentine if you can just come and bring us a brief summary of where this has been and where we are today.
Mr. Mayor and members of Council, just in order to provide some background and context for the benefit of Council and for those in the gallery, I just want to present a brief chronology of where the multiplex discussions and development dialogue has been over the past number of years. Back in 2008-2009, there was a community group with an interest in looking into the development of a multiplex that was formed and generally functioned on the basis of informal organization and discussions. That continued on until about April of 2011, when the Southeast Multiplex Board, organized with terms of reference, determined for the purpose of investigating the feasibility of a multiplex development in Steinbach. Moving on to July of 2011, Myers Norris Penny was engaged to conduct a feasibility study for the Southeast Multiplex facility, with the feasibility study completed in February of 2012. There is just some information, some key information that I do have available. There was a number of findings in that presentation. Which is coming up. And generally, there was a summary as listed in Table 2, as is shown on the overhead. There was a couple of locations that were looked at in that study, one of them being Steinbach's downtown. The other possible location being considered at that time was 80 Penner Park. The first Table 2 indicates a general review and projections of operating revenue and expenses that were found at that time, with the downtown location projecting to have an annual operating deficit of approximately $850,000, and the location at the 80 Penner Park having an approximate deficit of $226,000. Moving down to Table 3, to scroll down into the bottom, there was a number of different components that were envisioned for the proposed multiplex facility. They included arenas, a curling rink, field house, and conference center, as is shown there. Again, with the two locations that were identified, downtown location projections were nearly $98 million for the entire complex, envisioned to be completed in a number of phases. And the 80 Penner Park location was seen with cost projections of approximately $107 million. Moving forward, shortly after the original feasibility study was completed in March of 2012, the original mandate of the Southeast Multiplex Board was fulfilled. Several months later, in June of 2012, the city engaged Northern Sky Architects to present further downtown multiplex development options. And by February of 23, through further discussion and deliberations, the City of Steinbach approved a capital budget for the construction of Phase 1 of the multiplex development, which at that time was determined to be the Curling Rink Theatre and Plaza Complex. In March of 23, Northern Sky Architects was engaged for a formal design process, and by fall of 2013, the tender process for that project was completed, with the construction of the Curling Rink and Theatre initiated in January of 2014. Further, in March of 2014, City of Steinbach also engaged Stantec Consulting for further feasibility study, with a number of different information reports provided to Council. And in April of 2015, Stantec provided a financial assessment and an options analysis report to the City of Steinbach. In that study, Stantec identified as well a number of different components to a proposed multiplex facility. While not as extensive as the original proposal by Myers Norris Penny, the overall capital costs that had been projected for that facility were approximately $71 million in total, and again, with suggested phasing options over a number of years. In May of 2015, Stantec provided a final study and summary report to City Council, which consolidated all of the options within the study. In July of 2015, City Council formally passed a resolution determining which would be the next phase of multiplex development, and that was summarized in a resolution. Essentially, there was some key components within it. Firstly, that the City of Steinbach would continue to develop a master plan for the Rec and Culture multiplex, with the first phase to be the Performing Arts Center. Secondly, that the city would commit a maximum of $7.5 million toward its development, with at least 50% of the funds or more to be provided by other sources such as grants or other levels of government or private donations. And thirdly, that the development of a Performing Arts Center would not proceed until the funding from other sources was confirmed. That then carried forward to August of 2015. There was also a further meeting with Mr. Leo Ledechowski of Canadiens to seek further input as to what some of the additional options of integrating a multiplex with a hotel facility could mean. and whether or not that was a feasible option with both the downtown and alternate locations such as 80 Penner Park. Based on that information, it was communicated that both options were viable. In October 2015, City Council initiated a further resolution for further public consultation on multiplex development. And in November 2015, the Task Force on Public Engagement for Recreation and Cultural Facilities was established. As the community is well aware, there was an extensive public consultation survey that was conducted throughout the city in February, which then brings us now to March of 2016, which is the report date that I believe the task force is prepared to present to council.
Thank you. Now, Council, we did have 3 members of Council who I want to say thank you, first of all, for the work that you've done on the Public Engagement Task Force. It's not an easy task. There's a lot of opinions, and just want to thank both Councillor Penners as well as Councillor Swagstra for the work that you've done. Now we get to see some of the results of the fruition of that. That will help us determining our future action. So, Councillor Penner, you're going to bring some brief comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, there we go. All right, as Troy mentioned, in October, or maybe he said November, the Mayor and Council passed a resolution to create a business plan for the proposed Performing Arts Centre and to proceed with the public engagement process relating to the Performing Arts Centre. The Mayor set up a task force and appointed Councillor Penner and Councillor Swagstra and myself. I'll let you do it. It's not working very well. Okay, the resolution indicated that we would seek to get feedback on the scope, the location, and potential cost-saving options, such as repurposing existing facilities to see what our options are. The premise for the public consultation process was that the Performing Arts Centre was going to remain the first priority of recreation and culture. This is an important point. This process, as determined by the parameters Council gave, was not to reopen what would be the first phase. This process was done within the context that the Performing Arts Centre was going to remain the first phase. And just to reiterate that tonight we will not be voting on what the next phase is going to be. That has been established. Council has not yet decided on a location or the scope of the Performing Arts Centre. Feedback from this public consultation process will assist with Council's decision-making process going forward. The results we are presenting are based on meetings, emails, and phone calls that the members of the task force have had with the public, as well as surveys that were completed in February. It has been a valuable process. We have more information now than we had at the beginning of this process, which will help Council in our future deliberations. The business plan, which we released earlier in the year, indicates that a proposed Performing Arts Centre will have an annual operating deficit of $500,000 to $600,000 annually. In terms of repurposing an existing facility, there isn't an available facility that could economically be transformed into a Performing Arts Centre with the scope that Council is discussing. The results of what we have received indicate that residents recognize the value of arts and culture and what they bring to our community. Even people that don't support the Performing Arts Centre recognize that arts and culture is valuable. Residents prefer the downtown location. However, there are significant concerns about parking. And residents would like to see day-to-day space included in the new Performing Arts Centre, provided it does not lead to increased operational costs. The task force came up with some recommendations. I would just like to note that this is not a motion. These are not set in stone. These are just talking points now from which Council can move on and continue to discuss the project. First of all, we want to reassure people that we will not move ahead until the provincial funding that was announced, the $5 million, is confirmed after the election. That is a deal breaker. If that does not come in, then we'll have to reorient what we're planning to do. Second, we're going to actively pursue federal funding because, again, that is essential for this project to move forward. Third, we've added that 10% of total capital costs should be fundraised. It's important that there's a private component to projects such as these, so that will address that. Fourth, that the facility be built downtown, provided parking concerns are addressed. And again, I would just like to reiterate that that is not set in stone. We have heard loud and clear that people are concerned about downtown parking. So before we would do anything downtown, we would make sure that is addressed. And fifth, include day-to-day programming space if it is economically feasible. I also want to mention, again, that these are recommendations and we will continue to consult with stakeholders as we move forward with the process. And further, I want to indicate that surveys are available online on the city website so people can review the results for themselves, and also this PowerPoint presentation will be on there. So those are my comments. I will open it up to comments.
Okay, thank you.
Council.
Councillor Penner and Councillor Swagsby, do you have anything further to add to this? I know you worked extensively, both worked on this as well. Councillor Penner.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's been a good experience for myself with my fellow councillors to conduct the survey and to engage the public in consultation on this very important project and projects that the city is looking at. One thing that was told to us by the company that we had hired to engage to help us with the survey is that they had never seen the level of community involvement in a survey before at this level. So I am very, very pleased with the level of engagement that our community shows in projects like this. This is amazing. And we were told that by the persons responsible. What we did was try to formulate questions that would allow council to move forward, formulate questions that would guide us as we deliberate, things like location, scope, all of those questions that need to be answered. But as you heard Councillor Penner say that the funding is essential, so we have recommended very strongly that council first solidify the funding before any other moves are made. Thank you.
Councillor Swagsby, anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I mean, I think that as Councillor Susan Penner and Carrie Penner has reiterated, we have more information now than we did at the beginning of this process, and that's a good thing. We certainly learned a lot in terms of going through this process, and you know, I think that by getting as many people as filled out surveys, answered the phone, spoke to us, sent us emails, calls, we've received a lot of feedback, and feedback is a good thing. What we've sought to do as a task force is to take the feedback in, try to summarize some of the basic outlines of it, some of the basic contours. I would encourage people that all the data is available online. It should be available actually right now. That anyone who wants to go on and check out this presentation and double check that, they're welcome to do so. And all of the data from the telephone survey as well as the online consultations with public and business, all that is available online. So I would encourage people to check that out. And but on the whole, I think it's good that we have the info. I will point out as well that one of the key things in some of the recommendations is to address, there are certainly, many people have concerns about financial aspects of this. And so part of the emphasis on the recommendations is to make sure that we are actually confirming that funding is in place, that we seek additional sources of funding, and that we engage private funding. Because we certainly did see in our public feedback that there are concerns about, is that one of the concerns? Or?
Oh, no. Just drop my pen.
I heard the gauntlet dropping. So that's so there are those concerns, and that's what the recommendations are seeking to do. They are simply recommendations, and we will council will take them in deliberations. But I think the information is helpful both to council and frankly to everyone in the public to be able to take a look and see what some of the feedback shows.
Thank you. Further questions from council members? Any questions? Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the task force. Two pieces of the survey. One was online where people could answer the question. The other was the phone survey. Can you speak to that, which the results of each or how they went?
Well, as Councillor Carrie Penner said, there was tremendous feedback. When we're looking at the numbers, it's only one of the factors we took into account. Our presentation isn't based solely on the survey. However, the phone survey, that was the random one, and overall, like I mentioned, there is support for in all surveys, there's support for the arts and culture in our community, and even if people do not support the Performing Arts Centre itself, they do recognize the value of what it brings to our community. In terms of the online survey, that had a lot more feedback in terms of comments, where people would take the time to write in what their opinion was, sometimes strongly, what their opinion was of the project. So that we took more into consideration in terms of comments. And then there's also the business side. And again, people support arts and culture in our community, even if they're not supportive of the project.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Fair?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I really don't have a question, but I just wanted to comment. I first received the copy of the survey, the results of the survey last night, and I didn't have time to review it. I will study it in depth before I'm going to make any comments on it. Some of the things that are addressed in here, I hope we're going to take those concerns very seriously, like the parking. I think that's, and I know I've been very vocal on that, and I'm going to continue to trumpet that. I really don't think that we have the space downtown for what we want to do there. So, anyways, but I'm going to take some time to look at that and assess that for myself.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Funk?
I don't have a question either, but I do have some comments to make, and I just want to first off thank the task force for what they've done. There's a lot of hard work done here, and it's been evenings away from your families and sacrifices that you've had to make. But I do appreciate some of the recommendations that were made, especially the confirming of the funding. I mean, it's no secret, I didn't support this project in the first place. I did vote against it, but the confirming of funding is key, because that has been, the comments I'm receiving are financial, and we do need to make sure that we're doing this as fiscally responsible as we can, that we're making sure that we're spending the dollars right, that they're going in the right spot. And so that is, and that the fundraising, also the 10% fundraising is important, and I guess the rest we'll be discussing as we go forward. But my big thing is the financial aspect. We found out about the annual losses. We've got to be looking at those things too. The business plan, we know more now than we did before. Business plan is a huge thing that we have now, and going forward, I think we just need to look at this as a good task report. This is a good survey. We just need to do our diligence now.
Further questions or comments? I have a question. Any of the task force members can respond, but we had three kind of separate ways of speaking to the public. First, we had the survey, which is more scientific. Then we had the online, where people could simply participate randomly or however passionately they were. And then we had the survey that went to specifically the business community. Was there a huge discrepancy between those? I've done a rough look, but was there a huge discrepancy between those? Who would like to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will just add that there is a fourth source of data, and that, of course, is we don't want to discount the importance of the individual contacts that we've received, because all of us have heard from people both in phone calls and emails, and those are taken into consideration as well. So the surveys aren't the only thing that we're looking at. I'll also preface by saying that when we're talking about the data that's collected online versus the telephone poll, there's different purposes behind those. The purpose of the scientific telephone poll is to, basically be conducted as a professional poll. That's why we hired a professional polling company to do a random sample, 500 people, which statistically speaking is quite significant for a community our size. National polls often happen with 1,000 people, just for comparison's sake. So that, in terms of providing feedback about sort of numbers and, in terms of where people are at in certain things, the value of the online consultation sources, both the public and the business. The value there is in terms of showing us some general trends, giving people a chance to provide detailed comments, giving the opportunity for business to have some business-specific questions, because that was the purpose of those. Overall, what Energy Research had told us, and what is confirmed in reading through it, is that the general trend is fairly similar amongst them, although there are some differences. So, without getting into lots of details, because I think people can just go online and read them themselves, that on some of the questions in regards to financing, for example, there tends to be more support in the telephone poll as opposed to the online consultations. But again, we're not talking dramatic differences for the most part. But again, I don't want to comment too far on all those specifics, because I think that at the end of the day, we want people to go online and read these for themselves. Like, we don't want to simply, and part of the reason that we didn't just say, here's all the, here's what we think are the most important statistics, we want to encourage people to go to the website and read through the data, read through all sets of data, and people can come to their own conclusions. Because we want, the engagement process doesn't end here. This is a part of the engagement. This is, simply because the task force has, analyzed data and given a recommendation, council still wants to hear feedback. We still want input. We're continuing that process, and we intend to continue that process. This is one step along the way, and we want to encourage as many people as possible to continue to provide us with feedback and with input. And whether that's through providing comments on what they see in the data or just general other comments, but we want to encourage that to continue. The process does not end here.
Thank you. Further comments from council?
I'll just close when you...
Sure, go ahead,
Okay.
and then I'll make my final comments.
All right, I'll just close with a few personal thoughts here. The public engagement process has been valuable in terms of getting residents and business feedback, both formally through the task force, and I hope we do it again in the future. It has also been beneficial to have a business plan, so we have something to work off of in terms of operating costs. Prior to this, we actually didn't know where the operating costs were going to be. Like Councillor Funk, I do not support the project. But at the end of the day, what we're doing now is we're trying to find ways to make it more efficient. Councillor Funk and I, even though we didn't initially support the project. And further, if the funding for the Performing Arts Centre does not come through, which seems, it's a legitimate possibility at this point, I would still be open to discussing a new day-to-day space for the Performing Arts Centre.
Thank you. All right, Council, thank you for the work that you've done. When it comes down to the resolution that we passed back in June, and then we amended slightly to accommodate this type of a process, the first point that we have, and is very important, that the City of Steinbach will continue to develop a master plan for a recreation and cultural multiplex, and that is a key part of our job as we move forward. Right now, we're looking for partners with other levels of government. We're looking for partners with private individuals. And as we gather now all our information, we have studies, we have other data from Stantec that has been presented, we have this data, we need to culminate this in a master plan that shows an efficient process on how this is all going to take place. And so I look forward to working extensively with you as a council in accomplishing that. And our timeline is limited because we have a federal government that is coming out on March 22nd with a budget that may well have a program or some semblance of a program that can be pertinent to this type of a thing for us. And so for us to have that in place shortly after is going to be key to the success of finding partners and having an efficient system. So I look forward to working with you, and also, as Councillor Swagstra has said, the continued public engagement as we move forward. And I think there's been some valuable information here, and there's been valuable information all throughout this process since 2008, and it's time for us now to culminate this in a solid plan that's clear for our citizens and for ourselves so that we can follow through. Thank you. We now have 9A, the accounts payable, in the back of the book. Can I have a motion, please, to accept the accounts payable? Councillor Penner, seconded by Councillor Funk. Any discussion?
No.
Any questions? Being none, Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have the financial statement for December 2015. This is on the back as well. Mr. Workentine, do you have anything to add to the information that's there?
As far as the financial statement, Mr. Mayor, this is at least the preliminary December 31st, 2015 financial statement. These numbers have not been audited. To the best of our knowledge at the time that we're prepared, it is complete. However, based on the final audited statements that I do expect the city will receive sometime in May, the request is that council give this financial report interim approval.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Funk, second by Councillor Penner. I'm looking this way. I'm trying to be efficient. Any questions? Seeing none, call for the question. All those in favor? We have the 2015 reserve transfers. Mr. Workentine, this is on pages 19 and 20. Can I ask you just to briefly go through and highlight any of the ones that are anomalies, please?
Yes, the items that are on that schedule, this is an annual listing that is provided to City Council, just in summary to consolidate all of the reserve transfers either to or from the city's operating funds and to its various reserve funds. Many of these items have been budgeted in advance and are part of the city's annual financial plan process. I would like to bring the attention to council of one item in particular. It's approximately in that first section on page 19, about halfway down that first section. There's an amount that is being suggested as a transfer to the committed expenditure reserve in the amount of $350,000 for purposes of the future tax sharing payment to the RM of Hanover. There are always some surplus funds that remain when the city completes its annual financial statements. These were seen to be surplus funds in 2015. In addition to all of the other items that are there as noted, this is the one item that is somewhat unusual with the other items that are listed, and the recommendation is that council approve the transfers as recommended.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councillor Swagstra.
Make the motion we approve the transfers.
Thank you. Councillor Penner. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, without obviously going through all the different lines, just pointing out the importance of our reserves. I mean, we have a number of different reserves, and we accumulate money in these, and we have very specific purposes for them. So it is important that we continue to have money put into reserves, so that way it's available for some of these important projects, because our reserves are certainly an important source of funding for when we need to do capital programs.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Nothing further.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Mr. Workentine, how in all reserves right now, do you have a rough number for the end of last year, please? Some are committed, some are not.
At this point, I do not have a summary total. The opening overall balance of the city's reserve fund was approximately $12.5 million in 2015.
Thank you. All right, council, we have the building permits for February on page 21. There's a motion on the bottom of page 21. Can I have someone move that, please? Councillor Fair, second by Councillor Siemens. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Any questions of council? Seeing none, we have the correspondence and petitions, 11A, St. Rat River Conservation District on page 22. Mr. Fair, do you have anything to add to those minutes?
No, I wasn't there.
All right, thank you. Take those as information. We have the letter from the Hanover School Division on page 28. Take that as information. You all notice what kind of pens you're using today?
Thank them for the pens, will you?
It was in good fun that they dropped them off for you.
Yes, we noticed.
12A, there is no other business. Can I have a motion then to adjourn the meeting, please? Councillor Funk, second by Councillor Penner. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.